Sibling rivalry. The timeless tradition where children test their parents' patience and each other's sanity. It's like the Olympics of who gets the biggest slicer of cake, who has the most comfortable spot on the couch, or who can scream louder when they lose a game of Uno. This is Neena teacher and welcome back to our series on sibling rivalry. In our first video, we uncovered what sibling rivalry is. Today, we are diving into why it happens, the causes behind the tension that keeps parents scratching their heads and siblings sparring over the smallest things. Spoiler alert, it's not just the kids' fault. There are different scenarios where our kids appear on the surface like they are being pretty nasty, and yet underneath they are struggling with something really painful. Sibling rivalry stems from something deeply human, the need to feel valued, noticed, and secure in our place in the family. In childhood, that need often translates into a competition for resources, whether it's parental attention, the best toy, or even the bigger slice of cake. In my class once, two siblings they had a heated argument during a spelling bee. The younger sister won and the older brother declared in front of everyone, "You only won because I let you." His frustration wasn't just about losing, it was about feeling overshadowed by his younger sibling. That's the classic sibling move. If you can't win, at least make sure your sibling doesn't fully enjoy their victory. This tells us that rivalry isn't just a superficial clash. It's deeply tied to emotions like self-worth and identity. Let's have a look at some everyday triggers. One of the simplest yet overlooked cause is boredom. When kids are bored, their siblings become walking, talking targets. Think about the long car rides or rainy afternoons when there is nothing to do. Suddenly, "Stop touching me, he's looking at me," becomes the soundtrack of the day. In a classroom setting, this boredom triggered rivalry sometimes looks like one sibling constantly interrupting the other or grabbing their things just to provoke a reaction. Have you ever noticed how achievements, whether it's in academics, sports, or hobbies, these can spark rivalry among siblings? Even a well-meaning compliment like, "Your brother's such a great reader," even that can unintentionally make the other child feel less than. I will share a classroom story with you. In one of my classes, an older sibling confided, "I hate it when teachers compare me to my sister. She is always the smart one and I am just there." Comments like these can cut deep and fuel competition that spills over into the home. Let's see how sibling rivalry plays over different developmental stages of a child. Young children, especially preschoolers, they're just learning to navigate their emotions and social skills. Sharing a toy feels like giving up part of themselves, and this struggle often leads to battles over even the simplest things. For example, one scene we come across is preschoolers, they argue over stuffed animal in the play area. The older one will say, "But it's my turn," while the younger one will cry out, "No, mine." Both feel justified and neither have the tools to compromise without help. Kids at the elementary age have a strong sense of fairness. If they perceive that the sibling gets more privileges or leniency, it can spark feelings of resentment. If one child gets 6 French fries in their plate, you better believe the other one will count their plate to ensure equality. And heaven help even if one strip is even slightly longer than the others. On the other hand, teens are focused on independence. They often resent being asked to babysit or share responsibilities for their younger siblings. They see it as unfair. I once asked a teenager why he always seemed annoyed with his younger sister. You know what he said? I don't have time for her. I've got my own stuff to do, but my parents just don't understand that. His frustration was more about his changing priorities than about the sister herself. Now there are family and environmental factors. The first one being shared resources. Whether it's the TV remote, a bedroom, or a parent's attention. These lead to conflict. Sharing is hard, especially when kids feel like they are getting less than their fair share. And of course, family dynamics make a lot of difference. Big life changes like the birth of a new sibling, divorce in the family, or a move. It can unsettle kids. These events can trigger feelings of insecurity, which sometimes manifest as rivalry. In some cultures, favoritism is based on gender or the birth order. This can intensify rivalry. For example, a child might feel undervalued because their sibling fits the ideal mold better. In one class, I had a student who struggled because her culture prioritized boys. She often said, "My brother gets everything and I have to fight for everything." This imbalance made her more competitive and resentful. And then comes the big one, the role of parents. Their parenting styles, their behavior. Many a times, parents accidentally add fuel to the fire. As parents, we sometimes contribute to rivalry without even realizing it. Comparisons like, why can't you be more like your sister? Or even showing favoritism, even unintentionally, can deepen the divide. And kids always mimic their parents' conflict resolution skills or the lack thereof. So if you are yelling, "Stop fighting," while waving a slipper, guess what method your kids are going to adopt? If parents resolve conflicts through shouting or blaming, siblings often adopt those same patterns when dealing with each other. Then there are psychological and emotional factors too. Jealousy is a major driver of rivalry. That's what makes a child cry. You love them more. That's a common complaint when the sibling gets a compliment, or even if it was something as mundane as eating their vegetables. It's that green-eyed monster that makes kids fight over who gets to sit next to mummy or who gets praised more for their efforts. Then there's a lack of problem-solving skills. Children are still learning how to manage disagreements. Without the right tools, even small conflicts can escalate into major arguments. Kids don't naturally know how to negotiate. Without guidance, every disagreement becomes a battle, complete with dramatic exits and tears. Sibling rivalry is the normal, multifaceted phenomenon rooted in developmental stages, family dynamics, and even boredom. But it's also an opportunity, a chance for kids to learn empathy, negotiation, and resilience. In our next video, we'll tackle how to manage sibling rivalry effectively. Let me know in the comments what's the funniest things your kids have fought over. Because let's be honest, sometimes all we can do is laugh.